Okay, so what governs how much data we need? Right? So what is the governing principle, governing philosophy, governing regulations, et cetera? What governs? Well, to answer that question, we kind of have to break this up into a couple of pieces. So one part that governs data, though not directly, is 49 CFR 192 and 195, where all the pipeline safety regulations are. We've got integrity management, we've got leak detection. There's a lot of stuff going on now where you're being asked to file reports when you violate MAOP limits, right, such as that. And then there's control room management, where they have requirements for adequate information, which is about the HMI and about the information available to the controllers so they can maintain effective control of operations. And then you've got requirements for alarm management. And then so those are operating requirements. And then we also have financial requirements, because the other part that's going on in these systems is all the measurement data at all these points where I'm changing ownership of the product or commodity that I'm flowing in the pipelines or through the facilities. All of that is governed by Sarbanes-Oxley because it hits the general ledger. So, right? So measurement and those rules also impact this. So I like to ask questions because it helps me understand kind of where you are and gathering, understanding the information I'm attempting to present. So what are the primary differences between operating data and measurement data from y'all's perspective? What would be different about those two kinds of data?
One is used for operations and maintenance, and the other one is used for just recording.
Okay, so one's used for operating, one's used for recording. Cool.
The top one is more real time, if you will. Right. The bottom one can happen once in a while.
Yeah, so this is real time. What's happening right now, this is after the fact, right? Even if it's a few moments after the fact, because I'm interested in accumulations here. Here I'm interested in flow rate. Here I'm interested in flow total, as an example, right? Alan, you had a question or a comment?
The measurement you have to be able to audit.
Yes.
Data, keep track because of what you're saying with regulation.
Well, actually, I have audit requirements in both these cases, right? These audits are pipeline safety audits. Is the information available to the controller to operate the pipeline safely, right? These audits are financial audits. Can you support that the measurement that you're invoicing me for is the measurement that actually occurred, right? So similar but different, right? And all of this data comes up through the telemetry infrastructure. So if we kind of break this down, right, when I was talking about in terms of the regulations, and I talk about it more in kind of common language, then what I'm really talking about is I've got to do preventions through systems, and those are required by regulation. I've got to do leak detection, I've got to do alarming and alarm management, and those are required by regulation. I also have to do what PHMSA, the Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, calls protection through people, what I call vigilance, right? So I have to make sure that the people that are 24/7 sitting in front of screens looking at data actually have the data that they need in the time frame they need it in a way that they can understand what's going on, right? So I've got to do prevention through people, and I got to support vigilance. And then I also use these systems to actually run my business, right? And what's interesting to me when we go and look at this industry where we're doing what I would kind of generally call operations technology, right? We tend to focus more on the regulatory requirements, but ultimately what are we really trying to do? We're trying to run these organizations effectively. And that means safely, and we're delivering on spec, and we're delivering our nominations on time, right? So I got to coordinate delivery. I got to use this same data to coordinate delivery. And then I've also got to capture the measurement, because the measurement's got to come up and go to the accounting function. You know, it goes through a back office function and then to the accounting function. So it's all the same data, right? But it's all used for different purposes. So why would that be important? Why would that distinction? So I made a couple of declarations, okay? One declaration I made was it's all the same data. The other declaration I made is it's used for different purposes. Why is that distinction important in the context of how much data is enough? Right. How the data is used drives how much data I need and when I need it. Right? So it's the use that drives the quantity and the time frame for getting that data. And these are all very different uses, and they have, as a result, different data requirements. So I've talked about a few needs. So what are some others? Well, I've got measurement. Marketing needs this information, right? Because most of these pipelines, midstream companies, they have scheduling functions. They need to know how much data is moving at this point and how much product is moving at this point and how much more product I can move today at this point. Can I take an additional incremental nomination for today's volume? Analysis needs this data. So I've got all kinds of analysis going on. I've got measurement looking, is my measurement good? I've got chromography looking, are my chromatographs running well? I've got compression looking, what's my optimization? I've got people looking at fractionators and what's my recoveries, right? So they've got all kinds of engineers looking for data. And then optimization. Now what's interesting is as I step down through these things, I end up needing more data, but timeliness is less important. Do you see that, right? So that's an interesting distinction, right? So timeliness is critical here. Timeliness is not necessarily critical for optimization, right? Who optimizes in real time? Pretty much no one. And then on the other side, I've got vigilance, I've got coordination, I've got alarm response, and I've got emergency response. And likewise, timeliness is kind of inverse proportional there, but what's important on the right side? Coordination. Accuracy. I need the right number, okay? If I've got the wrong number over here, I'm going to fix that in the process of dealing with the data. If I've got the wrong number on the right, I could potentially make a bad decision that, has great cost, financial, people, environmental, et cetera, right? So it's all the same data, but it's all different contexts for using the data.